A tense political moment between the U.S. and Africa. It was a busy morning in Washington, D.C. in May when Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene made a bold move that would spark international headlines. During an appearance on Fox News, she was asked about the growing political influence of President Ibrahim Traoré of Burkina Faso. Marjorie, how do you view President Traoré's rising leadership role in Africa? Host Brian Kilmeade asked. Greene smirked, adjusted her red blazer, and answered sharply, Brian, this Ibrahim Traoré is just another African dictator, pretending to care about democracy and development. Burkina Faso is a corrupt, bankrupt country. She didn't stop. There, I'm sick of American politicians acting like these African leaders are something special. They lie about their economies, inflate their progress, and the left-wing media just eats it up. I bet Traoré doesn't even know where America is on a map, yet the media treats him like a genius. Her remarks went beyond politics. They felt personal, even offensive to many, and within hours, clips of the interview went viral, especially across Africa, sparking massive backlash. Thousands of miles away in Ouagadougou, President Traoré was watching the footage with his closest advisors. His communications minister, Dr. Alonso Ouedraogo, was furious. Mr. President, this isn't just criticism, it's a racially charged insult, but Traoré stayed calm. He scrolled through background information on Greene and said evenly, it seems she's badly underestimated us. If she wants to challenge our credibility, let's give her that chance. He ordered an international press conference for the next day and called for a full report on Greene's own record. If she questions our truthfulness, he said, we'll let the world see who really struggles with honesty. By the next morning, the presidential palace was buzzing with activity. Traoré had mobilized his communications and political research teams to put together a powerful response. Gentlemen, he said in a strategy meeting, she claims we're lying about our progress. Let's show the world the facts and who's really bending the truth. Yakuba Ouedraogo, his communications advisor, presented the findings. Mr. President, her track record is filled with false claims and conspiracy theories. All documented, they detailed how Greene had spread bizarre theories about Jewish space lasers, denied school shootings, shared COVID misinformation, and made hundreds of statements that had been publicly debunked. She's even lied about her own education and work background, added Dr. Ouedraogo. Traoré nodded. Excellent. Now let's compare her district in Georgia with Burkina Faso. Fatimata Ouedraogo, the economy minister, stepped in. Our numbers are stronger across the board. We've reduced poverty more in the last 10 years than her district has. Our crime rate is 67% lower, and our schools are performing better than hers. Traoré looked over the report carefully. So here we have a U.S. Congresswoman from an area with more problems than ours, accusing us of lying about progress. Then he smiled and gave his final instruction. Prepare a formal invitation. Let's ask Ms. Greene to join us for a live televised debate, right here in Burkina Faso. The debate challenge that shocked Washington President Ibrahim Traoré had made up his mind if Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene truly believed he was lying about Burkina Faso's progress, she should be willing to defend her claims in public. So, late one afternoon, during a live international press conference, Traoré made a move no one in Washington saw coming. Yesterday, Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene accused me of spreading falsehoods about Burkina Faso, he said, looking straight into the cameras. As a leader who values truth and transparency, I officially invite her to a live televised debate where we compare facts side by side. He offered her the choice of topics, a neutral moderator, and the chance to present any evidence supporting her claims. The format was open. The tone was firm but polite. The challenge was a political masterstroke. Declining it would make Greene look weak, but accepting meant stepping into unfamiliar and potentially dangerous territory. Within minutes, the news exploded across the internet. Headlines shouted, African president challenges U.S. Congresswoman to live fact check. Social media was buzzing with hashtags like #TRAOREVs, Greene and #the debate. Back in her capital, Hill office, Marjorie watched the press conference unfold. Her staff looked uneasy. Are you sure you want to go through with this? Asked her chief of staff, Tom Wilson. He seems incredibly prepared. I can't back down now. Green muttered. That would make me look like a coward. Besides, he's just an African president. What kind of data could he really have? But as she started digging into Ibrahim Traoré's background, the situation became much clearer and more dangerous than she expected. He wasn't just any African leader. He held an engineering degree, a master's in public administration, an MBA in economics, and he spoke 5 languages. His record in government was respected even by his critics. Damn, Marjorie whispered. This guy isn't playing games. Still, it was too late. The press was watching, and silence would look like surrender. The date was set. The world was waiting. For the next 3 days, Green and her team scrambled. Her office filled with papers and reports on Burkina Faso. She desperately searched for anything she could use to challenge Traoré's numbers. Tom, I need dirt. Anything. Corruption? Poverty? Mismanagement? Something that proves he's exaggerating. Tom returned with reports, but they weren't what she'd hoped for. Marjorie, the World Bank, IMF, and even the UN confirm his progress. He said hesitantly. He's actually doing better than most of his neighbors. Yes, there are challenges, but he's managing them well. Frustrated, Green slammed, her fist on the desk. This is useless. There has to be something wrong. Then came another blow. Her researcher, Jennifer Parker, walked in looking worried. Marjorie, he's been researching you too. And he's got a detailed file, your past claims, controversies, all of it. Marjorie narrowed her eyes. Like what? Jennifer hesitated, then said, the Jewish space lasers, denial of school shootings, COVID conspiracies. He's got it all documented and ready. Marjorie's face went pale. He wouldn't dare bring that up in a debate about Africa. You called him a liar, Jennifer reminded her. He has every reason to respond. That night, Green barely slept. She had started something she could no longer control, and she now understood what was at stake. May 30th, 2025, debate night, the big day finally arrived, and the world was watching. CNN had organized the event, and it was set to air in 89 countries. Respected journalist Christiane Amanpour would moderate. In the Atlanta studio, Marjorie Taylor Greene adjusted her blazer, trying to look calm, though her nerves showed. Thousands of miles away, in Ouagadougou, President Traoré sat with quiet confidence, ready to speak, not just for his country, but for truth. A global showdown. The debate begins from his official presidential office in Ouagadougou. President Ibrahim Traoré appeared on screen. In a split view from CNN's Atlanta studio, Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene sat tensely, adjusting her blazer. Christiane Amanpour opened the live broadcast, her tone measured but excited. Good evening to our viewers around the world. Tonight, we bring you an extraordinary debate between U.S. Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene and President Ibrahim Traoré of Burkina Faso. We'll be discussing governance, development, and credibility. She turned to Greene first. Congresswoman, you've publicly accused President Traoré of lying about his country's progress. What specific evidence can you share? Marjorie inhaled deeply, clearly trying to steady herself. African countries have a long track record of exaggerating numbers to get foreign aid, she began. I don't believe Burkina Faso is really doing as well as he says. Without missing a beat, Amanpour shifted to President Traoré. Mr. President, how do you respond to the accusation of inflated data? Ibrahim smiled calmly. Our statistics are reviewed and verified by respected international bodies. The World Bank, the IMF, UNESCO. They support our reports, but more importantly, he added, I'd like to understand what Ms. Greene is basing her claims on. What proof does she actually have? Marjorie hesitated. Well, it's obvious. Nothing is obvious without facts, Ibrahim said, still polite but firm. Ms. Greene, you have a well-known record of making accusations without evidence. Before questioning my honesty, perhaps we should look at your own. That landed like a thunderclap. It was clear Ibrahim had come ready not just to defend himself, but to go on the offensive. Marjorie's face tensed. That has nothing to do with the topic of Africa, she protested. It has everything to do with it, Ibrahim replied. Smoothly, if someone who routinely spreads misinformation accuses me of dishonesty, their credibility must be considered. Then he made his move. Ms. Greene, since you've questioned my integrity, let's take a closer look at your public record On the screen appeared a timeline of her controversial statements, along with fact checks and headlines. In January 2021, you claimed California wildfires were started by Jewish space lasers. Verdict: completely false. In March 2021, you said the Sandy Hook shooting was a hoax. Fact: 26 people died, including 20 children. In July 2021, you compared wearing COVID masks to the Holocaust. Fact: deeply offensive and historically incorrect. In September 2022, you stated, Democrats drink children's blood. Verdict: baseless conspiracy theory. IBRAHIM paused only briefly, and that's just the first 2 years of your term. Marjorie was visibly shaken, her voice rising. This is a personal attack. It has nothing to do with Burkina Faso. I disagree, IBRAHIM replied steadily. You accused my country of dishonesty with no evidence. If the person making that claim has a long history of spreading falsehoods, it matters. Amanpour stepped in gently. Congresswoman Green, how do you respond to these past statements being brought up? I have never lied. Marjorie shouted, losing composure. These are lies from the liberal media meant to smear me. But IBRAHIM remained calm. Ms. Green, these aren't rumors. They're your own words. They've been recorded, fact-checked, and publicly documented. Denying what's on video only reinforces the concerns about your relationship with the truth. Then he leaned forward slightly. Now, back to the topic. Do you have any actual evidence, numbers, data, documents to support your claims? That Burkina Faso is falsifying its progress. There was a long pause. Marjorie had nothing. The silence was louder than any argument. She finally burst out, This is a setup. You're trying to discredit me with tricks and fake facts. IBRAHIM raised an eyebrow, his expression unbothered. I'm using facts that are available to the public. If that damages your image, perhaps it's not the facts that are the problem. Facts, Marjorie shouted. You're just another African dictator, fooling the media. I know the truth. And what truth is that? IBRAHIM asked gently. Because so far, you've provided no proof at all. Just assumptions. Amanpour tried to intervene again. Congresswoman, let's keep the discussion civil and focused on the topic, civilized. Marjorie snapped. He's attacking me to cover up his own lies. IBRAHIM remained composed. Mrs. Green, I haven't lied about you. I've simply repeated your own statements. If those are damaging, perhaps it's time to reflect, not deflect. The collapse of Marjorie Taylor Greene and the rise of IBRAHIM TTRAORÉ, the debate, had already taken a sharp turn. But what happened next stunned the world. Frustrated and cornered, Marjorie Taylor Greene lashed out. You Africans are all the same, she snapped. Always blaming others for your problems. Always lying to get money from the West. The racist remark echoed across the studio and around the world. Christiane Amanpour was visibly stunned. Congresswoman Green, she began, her voice tight with disbelief. It's the truth, Marjorie shouted, doubling down. Finally, someone saying what everyone is afraid to say about these corrupt leaders. President Traoré sat in silence for a moment, his expression somber. Then, with quiet dignity, he replied, Thank you, Ms. Green. You've just made it clear that your accusations were never about facts, they were rooted in racism. When you ran out of arguments, you turned to insults. That says more about your credibility than any debate ever could. Marjorie began pacing the CNN studio, flailing her arms. I'm not a racist. I'm just saying what no one else dares to say. And where is your evidence? IBRAHIM asked, calmly. We are still waiting for real proof that our government has lied. Do you have any? She said nothing, just silence. That silence spoke volumes. IBRAHIM took the opportunity for a final, powerful statement. Ms. Green, thank you for this educational moment. You've shown the world that your criticism of Burkina Faso was not about facts, but prejudice. And now everyone has seen it for themselves. The fallout was immediate and massive. Social media erupted within minutes. Hashtags like #MarjorieRacist and Jinghao Traoré were trending worldwide. Clips of Marjorie's outburst were shared millions of times. Marjorie Taylor Greene just ended her political career on live television, one analyst tweeted. She was exposed by Traoré as a liar and a racist, and he barely had to raise his voice. In Washington, chaos at the White House. Donald Trump's aides scrambled to distance themselves from Green. Her remarks do not reflect the views of this administration, a rushed press release said. On Capitol Hill, Republicans issued damage control statements. Congresswoman Green's words were unacceptable and do not represent the values of the Republican Party, the House, Majority Leader stated. Major donors pulled support. 3 major corporations announced they were ending donations to Green's campaign. We cannot be associated with racism, period, said a spokesperson for one of the tech companies, in Burkina Faso celebration. Meanwhile, thousands poured into the streets of Ouagadougou, cheering for their president. He defended African dignity. They chanted, "He showed the world who the real liar is." Calls flooded in from African leaders across the continent. "You've unmasked the hypocrisy and racism we face," said the president of Ghana. "All of Africa is proud." In the U.S., backlash grows. Universities across the country began canceling speaking invitations for Green. "We will not give a platform to someone who spreads racially charged misinformation," said Georgetown University's president. Editorials in Georgia, even in conservative-leaning outlets, were brutal. "She embarrassed our state on a global stage," read the Atlanta Journal-Constitution. Her behavior was disgraceful for any elected official. The House Ethics Committee soon announced a formal investigation. "Representatives must maintain professional standards when engaging with foreign leaders," the committee chairman said. Old scandals resurface. IBRAHIM's debate had opened a door that couldn't be closed. Past videos of Marjorie promoting conspiracy theories and false claims began circulating again, this time with even more scrutiny. She wasn't just out of her depth, a political journalist said. Traoré exposed a whole history of dishonesty and extremism. Even social media platforms began limiting the reach of her posts. "She's shown a repeated pattern of misinformation," said a Twitter spokesperson. President Traoré simply connected the dots. Meanwhile, Traoré rose higher as Green's career unraveled. IBRAHIM Traoré was welcomed across Europe as a statesman and a symbol of modern African leadership. In Paris, London, and Berlin, he was greeted with open arms. President Traoré defended African dignity against racist attacks, masked as political criticism, said French President Emmanuel Macron. "France is proud to work with leaders like him." Even NATO extended a formal invitation. "President Traoré brings a level of wisdom and maturity that many in the West could learn from," said the Secretary General. 1 year later, a complete reversal of fortunes in a surprising turn of events. The U.S. Congress, both Democrats and Republicans, came together to pass a resolution honoring President IBRAHIM Traoré for his leadership and for promoting respectful global relations, especially with Africa. Only 5 lawmakers voted against it. Among them was Marjorie Taylor Greene. She voted against praising the same leader she publicly attacked. The Washington Post noted, "It confirms her opposition was never about policy, it was about prejudice." Marjorie, now politically isolated and under growing pressure to resign, could only watch as IBRAHIM Traoré became one of the most respected political figures on the global stage. A year later, a complete transformation, 1 year after her explosive live TV meltdown, the roles had reversed completely. President IBRAHIM Traoré was now addressing the United Nations General Assembly in New York. Delegates from 193 countries listened with respect as he delivered a speech on fighting disinformation and racism in international politics. "A year ago, an American congresswoman accused me of lying with no proof," he said. When challenged with facts, she resorted to racism. That moment revealed how misinformation and prejudice often go hand in hand. His words were met with spontaneous applause 3 times during the speech. "Responsible leadership means basing criticism on facts, not stereotypes," he continued. "True democracy thrives on honest debate, not conspiracy theories." At the end, the UN Secretary General introduced Traoré as a global example of leadership grounded in dignity, truth, and composure. Global recognition for Traoré. Political fallout for Green. Harvard University offered IBRAHIM tenured professorship in ethics and global leadership. "President Traoré has shown how to remain dignified when unfairly attacked," said the university president. Back home in Georgia, things had worsened for Green. She was now facing a serious challenger in the Republican primary. "He's become a national embarrassment," said her opponent. "Her behavior doesn't just reflect on her, it damages all of us." Even her conservative base was turning away. Her approval ratings had plummeted. "People want representatives who solve problems," said one longtime Republican voter, "not someone who humiliates us on the world stage." An award for dignity later that year, UNESCO honored President Traoré with its prestigious Human Dignity Award for promoting respectful dialogue and countering misinformation with truth. In his acceptance speech, Ibrahim reflected on how the events had changed him and the world's perception of Africa. "Marjorie Taylor Greene taught me a valuable lesson," he said. "When you hold your dignity in the face of hate, truth eventually wins. She tried to destroy my reputation with lies and prejudice, but in the end, she destroyed her own credibility and gave Africa the global respect it deserves." Then, with a warm smile, he ended his speech with a quiet message that echoed around the world. "Sometimes, our adversaries do us a greater favor than our friends." Thank you, Ms. Greene, for showing the world the difference between leadership rooted in truth and politics driven by hate.